Good morning, my dear students. My name is Mrs. Sahar Hussein. I'm your teacher of biology this year, inshallah. We are going to talk about the chemical structure or the chemical reactions inside our body. So we have to know that we have group of chemical reactions happen inside our body. These chemical reactions just for two reasons: to help the body to grow and also to let the body to get the energy that we need to do all vital activities. So we are going to talk about the chemical reactions inside our body. As we said that we have chemical reactions inside our body, so we have chemical compounds. Because as we have chemical reactions, so we have chemical components react with each other inside our body cells. Okay, so what are the types of these chemical reactions inside our body? We are going to talk about the types of chemical compounds inside our body. First of all, we have to know the structure of our body. Our body consists of group of body systems, like the digestive system, like the respiratory system, like the circulatory system, the nervous system. All of these systems work together as one unit to keep our body alive. And each one of these systems consists of group of organs. If we look at this figure, you will find that this is one of our body systems. One of them is the digestive system. The digestive system consists of group of organs like stomach, like the small intestine, like the large intestine. Okay, and if we talk about each organ in details, we are going to know that the organs consist of group of systems. The organs consist of group of tissues. Like the stomach consists of group of tissues. Then the tissue consists of group of cells. So finally, we found that the cell is the smallest building unit inside our body, where the chemical reactions happen. This is another figure that shows that we have inside our body group of body systems. One of these systems is the digestive system, and if we talk about the digestive system in details, we have to know that the digestive system consists of group of organs like the stomach, and the stomach consists of group of tissues, and the tissue consists of group of cells. So finally, we find that our body consists of group of cells, or the cell is the smallest building unit inside the body of the living organisms. Now we are going to talk about the types of chemical compounds inside our body, or inside the body of the living organisms. Inside our body, we have two types of compounds. Group of compounds, we call them organic compounds, and other group called inorganic compounds. The difference between them is the organic compounds are compounds huge in structure. These compounds are also called biological macromolecules or polymers. These compounds contain carbon and hydrogen basically in their structure. About inorganic compounds, they are compounds small in structure, and also carbon here is not a condition. Examples for the inorganic compounds, we have water and salts. Examples of organic compounds, we are going to talk about four types of organic compounds. They are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and the nucleic acids. So, this figure shows the difference between and the similarities between organic and inorganic compounds. About the similarities, compounds and the organic compounds and the inorganic compounds similar as they are chemical compounds inside our body. About the inorganic compounds, the carbon here is not a condition. About the organic compounds, they are compounds contain carbon and hydrogen basically, and they are huge in structure. So we call them macromolecules or polymers. As we said that the organic compounds are also called biological macromolecules or polymers, so we have to know that each polymer consists of group of units called monomers. It means that if we join the monomers together, they give a great polymer. Through a process, we call this process polymerization process. So what is the meaning of polymerization process? If you look at this figure, you will find that these are the monomers. And when the monomers join together, they form the great polymer through a process called polymerization process. So polymerization is the process where the monomers join together to form a great polymer. What are these polymers? We have 4 types of polymers in our syllabus. The first one are the carbohydrates. Number 2, the lipids. Number 3, proteins. And number 4, nucleic acids. Now we are going to talk about the carbohydrates. What are the carbohydrates? The carbohydrates are one of the biological macromolecules inside the cell. Carbohydrates include sugars and starches, as for example, pasta, rice, chocolate, sugar, any type of sugar. So you have to understand that there is very important point in the carbohydrates structure. The structure of carbohydrates contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen with ratio between these atoms 1 to 2 to 1. It means the carbohydrates, all the carbohydrates or most of them contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen with ratio between these atoms 1 to 2 to 1. So we put general formula of carbohydrates CH2O. It means that all carbohydrates contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen with ratio 1 to 2 to 1. So we can put again another chemical formula or general formula of carbohydrates CH2O. Now this figure shows that carbohydrates contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen with ratio between these atoms 1 to 2 to 1. This figure shows different types of carbohydrates. I said that we have different types of carbohydrates, like rice, like pasta, like biscuits, like chocolate, okay? Any type of sugar, all these compounds are considered from carbohydrates. Let's talk about the importance of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are very important for our body, as the carbohydrates, number 1, are the main and the quickest source of energy inside the body. The main and the quickest source of energy inside the body. It means after eating the carbohydrates burn inside our body to produce energy quickly. It doesn't mean that the carbohydrates only give us energy, but also lipids give us energy. And you have to know that the lipids give energy greater than the carbohydrates. But the carbohydrates are the quickest source of energy inside the body. So it means if we eat a small amount of carbohydrates, the body uses this carbohydrates or these carbohydrates as source of energy. And when these carbohydrates run out, the body starts to use lipids as another source of energy. Okay? Number 2, from the importance of carbohydrates, that carbohydrates also are used to store energy inside the body, as the human body stores carbohydrates in the form of glycogen inside the liver and inside the muscle. The plants store carbohydrates in the form of starch. So the body uses carbohydrates as source of energy and uses carbohydrates to store energy inside the body. It means if we eat carbohydrates extra than our need, so the body uses the amount of carbohydrates that the body needs to change this amount into energy. And the excess amount of carbohydrates are stored inside the body, inside the liver and the muscle, in the form of glycogen, which is one of the carbohydrates. And also the plants store carbohydrates inside their tissues in the form of starch. Number 3, from the importance of carbohydrates, that there is one of the carbohydrates called cellulose. It enters in the structure of the cell wall and the cell membrane of the plant cell, and also in the structure of the cell membrane of the animal cell. So again, if we talk about the importance of carbohydrates, so we have to know that number 1, it is the main and the quickest source of energy inside the body. It doesn't mean that the carbohydrates only give us energy, but also lipids give us energy. But the carbohydrates are the quickest source of energy inside the body. And the lipids give us energy more than the carbohydrates, but slower than the carbohydrates. Number 2, They are used to store energy inside the body, as the human body stores excess carbohydrates in the form of glycogen inside our liver and muscle. And the plant stores carbohydrates in the form of starch inside their tissues. Number 3, there is one of the carbohydrates called cellulose. This cellulose enters in the structure of cell wall and cell membrane. Okay. This figure shows how cellulose enters in the structure of the cell wall and the cell membrane of the plant cell. In front of you, this is the structure of the plant cell, and this cellulose is one of the carbohydrates. It enters in the structure of the cell wall, or the external layer of the plant cell, and the cell membrane or plasma membrane, the second layer of the plant cell. Thank you for secondary for lesson.